Yes.
Yeah, so we can begin. Good evening, everyone. This is the Delhi NCR Chapter webinar. We have with us Mr. Vikas Bansal, who is a 99 2001 alumni. He's an entrepreneur and he's the author of the best-selling book Be Your Boss. And we have Sir with us today. Sir will start with his introduction, and we have Yash Jain from our Delhi team. Vikas sir, welcome sir.
Hi, sir. Welcome.
Hello, yes. Hello, Gargi.
Hello.
So, do we still wait for another 2-3 minutes?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess we can wait for a couple of more minutes and then
Yeah.
we can start off.
Okay, so let's wait another 2 minutes and
Yeah,
stop.
let's wait. Yeah. We can wait while people are coming into the meeting. We're live on YouTube as well now.
So we'll start at exactly 6:03, right? Another minute.
Yes, yes. I guess we can start off, Vikasa.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like talking to an extended family. So wonderful, and I welcome everyone. So this is Vikas Bansal from the second batch of Planet I, as we call it in our times, right? It's a wonderful feeling to be talking to all of you. And over the next 1 hour, I intend to share all my experiences, which may benefit you in some way. And let me just give you a small introduction and brief introduction about myself. So I was born and brought up in a small town. I did my class 10th from a city called Ambala, Kant, which is in Haryana. And I only had one dream of getting into a good engineering college, and that's what I did. It was very, very simple because my father was an engineer from Peck, Chandigarh, and so was my Chachaji. So I didn't have any great ambitions of getting to an IIT. My only aim was to get into Peck, Chandigarh, and life would be all set. But somehow I didn't make it. I made it to REC. At that point in time, it was called REC, which is now NIT Kurukshetra. So I had a good 4 years. I was always a good student, I would say, but also good at extracurricular activities. So until about the second year, I didn't have any particular aim. But yes, then I had an ambition of doing something in the extracurriculars, and I happened to become the secretary of my college during my final year, participated in all kinds of events. And I also harbored an ambition of getting to an IIM while I was in my third year. Now, it may sound again strange to most of you, for people start preparing in their class 12 and start dreaming about an IIM, especially for some of you from the IPM batch, right? I'm sure you started dreaming about the IIM tag way back in your class 11 or class 12 standard, right, Gargi? But for us, to be very honest, I didn't never thought about an IIM till about my second year of engineering. And I got the motivation from one of my seniors. He said he was writing the exam. I said, okay, I'll also prepare for the exams. That's what we did, and got into an IIM, and life was pretty good after that. So worked for so I worked about 2 years before my IIM, between my engineering and IIM. And then about 17 and a half years post that. So close to 20 years of work experience, and now as an entrepreneur since 1.5 years. And that's what the journey has been. It's a fantastic journey, and we'll talk more as we move along.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So, sir, we can start discussing about all the entrepreneurship journey and how you went into an IIM, because you started your book by talking about how your dream was to get into an IIM. And so we can begin with that, because you've talked about how you prepared for an IIM. You gave up an admission in MDI Gurgaon when you made the first attempt. So if you can help us out with that journey, how was it for you?
See, I talk about this aspect in my book as well, and most of us talk about something called a dream. And the way I talk about my dream is, so I say dream is something, you don't talk about a dream every other day. You don't have a new dream every other day or every other week. So you have some of those big dreams, and those literally consume you. Wherein, most of us have seen that advertisement. I don't know, you were pretty young, Yash and Gargi at that point in time, but there was a famous ad run by Pepsi about 10, 15 years back, in which you had Sachin Tendulkar.
And the other cricket members as well.
You eat cricket, you sleep cricket, something like that.
Yes.
That's what a dream is. So you live your dream day in and day out. That's what the dream is. And this was the biggest dream of my life at that point in time. As I told you, I never thought about getting into an MBA college till about the second year of my engineering. But when I got serious, I knew it had to be an IIM and nothing else. And that point in time, there were less than 1,000 seats. And it was still pretty competitive because we had more than 1 lakh students applying for these CAT examinations way back in 96, 97 as well. So it was pretty competitive. And I got through. I mean, I had a couple of calls in my final year, and IIM Kolkata and IIM Lucknow were the two prominent ones. I couldn't get through to any of these colleges, but I made it to MDI Gurgaon. Now, MDI was a pretty decent institute even at that point in time. No undermining their importance. When I say I let go of that opportunity, I'm not saying that was an inferior institution, but I don't know if I wanted that IIM tag or what was it. You become obsessed with something, and that thought of getting into an IIM was more of an obsession, or what you call a dream, right? So it was a tough one, and many people come back to me and ask me that, because how could you make that decision? What if you had not succeeded? I said, yeah, obviously I didn't make it the next time as well. I mean, I couldn't get a single interview call in my second CAT attempt. And then I gave the third attempt. And in my third attempt, I only had one call, which was IIM Indore. It was again like make it or break it. And I could make it. Now, somebody actually happened to ask me, because what if you had not made it on the third attempt? I was very clear. I would have tried a fourth time.
Correct.
And I again use that analogy in my book, wherein I talk about there are moments in your life. Now, this doesn't happen every year. So yes, Gargi, this will not happen every month or every year. But there are certain moments of time in your life when you're in a zone called a dream zone. I call that a dream zone. When everything seems possible and you're not willing to settle for anything less in life. Now, again, I'm saying that doesn't happen every month or every year of your life. But when it happens, you know that you are not going to settle for anything less in life. So I was possibly passing through that phase. So I was very clear, if I didn't make it the third time, I would have written the exam fourth time. But now, after 20 years, when I look back on my life, I may not have the guts to refuse an MBA admission. But that was a different zone I was in. So this was a journey, and so I mean, you're bound to achieve certain things in which.
Yes, sir. We're very glad that you got into IIM Indore, and we have you as an alumni now.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Yash, we can talk about sir's journey on Planet I. How you spent those 2 years. What dreams did you have after you got into an IIM?
So, do you want to share about your most fond memories of Planet I? I guess that you were a Fin student and were too much into academics as well.
I was always a good student, I would tell you. So it was a mix of marketing and finance. So
okay.
I had taken up certain finance subjects for me to understand businesses much more than what a normal marketing or a salesperson would do. I was very clear I never want to be in a treasury or so-called investment banking kind of a role.
Okay.
Right? But I want to be clear about the basic financial aspects. So I took up a balance of finance and marketing subjects. So always a good student. When I say a good student, I'm not saying the top of the league. But yes, let's say top 5-7 students, and out of a batch of 37, we were a batch of 37. So top 5-7 was good enough at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Which means in your current batch size, I believe the current batch size has now gone up to about 550.
More than that, 600, sir.
600. So in current context, I would say I was in the top 100. So जैसे inflation को indexing करते हैं ना, तो आज के indexing top 100 में थे.
Correct.
So a good student, and yes, again, now I always had an interest for public speaking, for some kind of paper presentation, or an opportunity to get out of the college and explore some new avenues. So I remember during our second year, we got n number of opportunities. We visited a lot of colleges. We went to Ahmedabad, we went to Kolkata for their annual fests. I'm sure some of you would have traveled.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Right. So we got that opportunity, and yes, we were about 5 or 7 of us who were really keen in exploring those opportunities. So we went to as many institutes we could, and then also I participated in a lot of these paper presentations. We participated in something like a FICCI paper presentation, or I don't remember, 2 or 3 of these. So we all knew we will land up with a job. Now again, we were lucky enough at that point in time, Yash. So both in my engineering and during the management tenure, once you entered a college, you were sure of landing up with a job, a decent job. See, again, the batch size was pretty small. The economy was opening up. There were n number of opportunities, which may not be the case for today's students. Even let's say with so many new industries having opened up, new sectors having opened up, but we had far greater opportunities during our time. So nobody was unsure about a job. So once you're in the second year, you would definitely end up with a good job. It was more about utilizing your time as to whatever opportunities you can explore outside of your curricular activity. So that's what we did. So made the most of our time.
So you have.
Candid, you want to ask about sir's corporate journey?
Corporate experience, yeah. So sir, you have more than 20 years of experience in the corporate sector. So how did you combine your love for public speaking or your wish to be an entrepreneur with your corporate job? Like, how did you reconcile these two dreams together?
Also, just adding on one point, a lot of the students who are graduating right now from top B schools have this thought that probably we'll gain some work experience in a top consulting firm, so on and so forth, and then probably, let's say, 4 to 5 years down the line, we'll start something of our own. So was that or a similar thought was also in your mind, or how was you all about the entrepreneurial journey?
So I wouldn't say I harbored any ambitions of being an entrepreneur in the very first 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
So first 5 or 10 years of my life, I was basically focused on earning some good money.
Correct.
Right? Which, and you enjoy the small comforts of your life. So that was it in the early years of my life. Now, when I look back at some of your, let's say some of your colleagues, who, let's say, so again, Yash, let's say you ventured into consulting as of now. So if I were to look back on my tenure, so I was very clear, I never wanted to be in consulting right from day one. Again, there's nothing right or wrong. But luckily, I started off in sales.
Okay.
And I believe that's really paid off in the long run. I had a 2-year stint in sales right after my engineering, before my MBA stint. And even after my MBA, so I spent about 1.5 years in product management, and then again got an opportunity to move back into sales. I spent about 5 years in sales. And when I talk about sales, I've been in enterprise sales, in channel sales, in direct selling, and also in retail sales. So if I look back at all those experiences, and once you now start off on your own, I believe those sales experiences help
Comes
you.
in a lot more handy. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
A lot more handy, and you actually have that on-ground experience. So yes, so let's say the day you start off something of your own, you will again be a salesman.
Correct, of course.
Correct.
Right? Selling is the first thing that you need to do. You might have a great product, a great service, but unless and until you're able to sell that product, you are not going to make any money. Ultimately, every entrepreneur is a salesman.
Correct.
True.
So having worked in sales for about 5, 6, 7 years of my life, and that too in different genres of sales. So I believe I lost that fear of rejection which is again very important as you start something of your own. Because when I look back at most of my engineering colleagues who've had a pretty decent life in whichever software company they've been, let's say, so I am an electronics and communication engineer, and more than 90% of my batch would be decently placed in a software organization as of date. Now, if I talk to any of them on starting something new, they have not faced any rejection in their life till date. So that's pretty tough for them. So I believe that sales experience came in handy, and then again, nothing right or wrong, but I decided that I will not specialize in a particular domain. So when I say specialize, you come across people who are only, let's say, into consulting for their life. Some people who are only into sales their entire life. Some people only into branding their entire life, or into product management for their entire life. So again, I'm saying nothing right or wrong, but I decided that I will not be limiting myself to a particular domain for my life.
So sir, we've discussed this, a lot of people have this dream of switching from corporate to entrepreneurship. So what was the impetus like behind that decision of switching to being an entrepreneur?
So it was pretty evident that I was now on the other side of 40, and I had to make up my mind that so a couple of years and the organizations would start. See, it was only yesterday, and without naming the person, again, one of my very close friends, he's been given the pink slip only yesterday. Hand over the pink slip. Now, at this age, you are not going to find a job very easily. Or even if you land up with a job, it will not be the same kind of a salary, the same kind of designation or position. You may have to compromise at this age. Now, this is a reality which one needs to face up to. I'm not saying this happens with everyone, but yes, increasingly, once you're on the other side of 40, this is what you need to take care of. So I'm saying it's more of a carrot and a stick. Carrot, because obviously I had something in my mind. I knew what I wanted to do. And you obviously have that stick also at the back of your mind when you know that you're on the other side now.
Correct.
And before you're asked to step down or before something happens. So it's both the carrot and stick. I wouldn't be very bookish by saying, no, it was my dream again to be an entrepreneur. So it's a combination of both the factors.
Sir, but you've been able to combine your interest along with monetizing that interest as well, right? So you were interested in public speaking, you were interested in writing a book. So how did that journey come about towards writing a book? Because a lot of us have this thought that we want to write a book. How did you decide between fiction, non-fiction? How did you decide, okay, this is what I want to write about? Because a lot of people have sent in questions asking about the fact that sometimes in a particular genre, something that you want to talk about has already been talked about. And you've talked about this in your book as well. So if you could walk us through that aspect of writing a book.
Also, just adding one small point, a personal question was that whether book writing or writing in general is for everyone or not. So let us say that I might also decide to, a couple of years down the line, want to write something. How should one go about it? That, whether is it for everyone? Because a lot of us wants to write actually, but don't know, how to take this forward.
Sure. So a couple of questions, I believe, what both of you are asking. So now, first of all, again, I'm being very honest. I didn't have a dream of becoming an author. If someone were to ask me on 31st of December 2019, would you be an author one day? I would have said, yes, possibly one day. So I had something in my mind, but never a big dream of becoming an author. But yes, it again started to crystallize. Let's say January, something happened. In February, I happened to attend an event wherein I had a feeling that, yes, I should be writing. So this is something which gradually happened. And once I was clear on the fact that I had to write, then obviously I would say the lockdown really helped. You might have heard about authors, when they need to write a book, they actually impose the lockdown on themselves.
They go into isolation and then
they cut themselves off from the family because you need to really concentrate. Now, I was lucky enough, I didn't have to do anything. Our Prime Minister ensured that I was able to have free time. So I believe the lockdown helped. So So everything happened as per what it had to. So February, I attended an event wherein I met a couple of decent speakers, some speakers from even outside India. And all of them were authors. So I spoke to some of them personally, and they said that it's obviously good. It helps you to crystallize your thoughts. So it's not just that you need to have a book as a visiting card. That's not the idea. But a book will help you in your sessions. It will help you in crystallizing your expressions, thoughts, ideas. So that's what the idea of a book is. So obviously I was inclined towards writing a book, and then the lockdown happened. So that was as far as writing the book is concerned. Now, Gabby, you had a few questions in terms of a topic, and then Yash, you had a question of,
Yes, sir.
in terms of who could be thinking of writing a book, or is it for everyone? See, I would say anybody watching this session today can write a book. And it's really become easy to publish the book.
Okay.
Yes, the writing part. See, initially, if I look back about 5-7 years, the biggest headache, if I would call that term a headache was finding the right publisher, or even not the right, finding a publisher for your book. So even if you have a good manuscript, if you're actually a good writer, then more than the writing part, the time taken was on finding the publisher. So even today, many people go through the regular traditional publishing route. Now, I didn't want to spend another 1 to 2 years, because if you go through a normal publisher, the minimum lead time is about a year and a half. So I know of certain people. I spoke to another gentleman only last week, and he says, my entire manuscript is ready, everything is done, proofread, everything, editing, everything is done, and his book is going to hit the stand, you know when? February of 2021.
Wow.
So I spoke to him as of in the first week of July, and proofreading, editing, everything done, but he's going through a traditional publishing route, because that publisher will have a number of releases already planned for the next few months. It's
sense.
like a movie release for them.
Yes.
They don't want to have too many movies to be released in this very same month, because they need to undertake a lot of those marketing and promotional activities. So either you obviously go through a traditional publisher, which again is difficult for a first-time author. So I am a first-time author. So to be able to establish my credentials would have been slightly more difficult. And then again, that lead time of 1.5 years. So I would say, so it's become pretty easy. So Yash, answering your question to the point, see, publishing has become really easy. But again, publishing is not the only thing. You need to ensure that people are able to read the book.
Correct.
Right? So writing and publishing is easy, but then you need to ensure that people are able to read the book. And they will read the book because of two reasons. And one reason is obviously the first few people may read the book because of their acquaintance or the friend circle.
True.
But the masses will pick up only once you have some good word of mouth, and that good word of mouth will come in from the content or the structure.
Correct.
Yeah. So, sir, me and Yash were talking about this. You've talked about the author, the virtues of being an author, right? So, if you want to expand on that a little bit. I mean, you thought about being an author, right? And the time from ideation to implementing was pretty short for you. So how did you decide, okay, this is the topic I want to talk about, and this is how I'll go about writing the book?
Okay, so definitely. So when somebody decides about writing something, the first thing would come to mind is about the topic. What really is the topic I should be writing on? So the first thing should not be topic. The first thing should be actually the theme. A topic is a subset of the theme.
Okay.
As you said, first of all, you need to decide whether fiction, non-fiction. And if it's non-fiction, then what kind of non-fiction? Non-fiction, again, you might have 50 different themes. So now, again, if I were to explain about my theme, I was not very clear on day one as to this would be on entrepreneurship per se.
Okay.
But day one, I was very clear it had to be something on let's say living a life beyond your regular routine. It has to be something related to your talent, something related to your passion and dreams, something related to networking, some things which a normal corporate employee does not think of on a daily basis. So if I talk about some of the aspects which I have covered in terms of, let's say, networking or building relationships, if I were to again give my personal example, so okay, LinkedIn as a platform has become pretty popular over the last 2-3 years.
Correct.
If I look back, I was hardly using LinkedIn when I was in a corporate job.
Okay.
I didn't feel the need to expand my network beyond the close contacts I was dealing with every day. And that's what most of the corporate employees are limited to. So day one when I started, I was clear that I had to cover some of these aspects in my book.
Okay.
And then in terms of something about your passion, something about living your life, something about building relationships. So these were the thoughts which were very clear in my mind on day one. I wouldn't say the entire structure was clear.
Okay.
So then as you start writing your rough draft, as you start penning down a few pages, then again you start to, so it's like again carving out a statue. Then you kind of start seeing the picture, then you start thinking about what kind of topic.
So, sir, you've talked about this point of having 25,000 days in a life.
Right.
So, yeah, so you were just talking about how we don't think about these things in our daily life. So, if you could expand on how you decided to put this into your book so that people understand, okay, what is the immediacy of achieving a dream or thinking of something that you want to do and then implementing it.
So the reason I mentioned about that, so again, when I speak about 25,000 days or the average life expectancy in India, which is close to 70 years. So think of it in both the aspects. Today I'm talking to a relatively younger audience, and especially in your age group, Yash, Vabhi. For you people, so it's a long innings. Not saying that I am through with my innings, but for you, it's a long innings. So when I speak about 70 years, so let's say you only through with about 25 years of your life. Even with average life expectancy, you still have about 2/3 of your life, which is there with you. So life is not a sprint. This is what I mentioned. And this is what I have always believed in. So life is not a sprint for the next 5 or 10 years. So it's always very tempting or fascinating to be thinking about those unicorn clubs and obviously those 8-figure salaries when you graduate from an institute. That's good, because if you have a goal, that's something that drives you. That's pretty good. But what I mean by a marathon is you should not be over with your life in the next 10 years. Many times people only have their goals for the next 5 or 10 years. And once they're done with their goals, they don't have any meaning left in their life. So I've seen people by the age of 30, 35, they've achieved what they wanted to. And they have nothing else to look forward to. So when I talk about 25,000 days for your generation, I'm talking about, do you have a goal for the next 50 years? Or are you only thinking about the next 5 years? Buying the next big apartment, buying the next big car, having that 1 crore salary? Is that it for the next 5 years? What after that? And similarly, for these 25,000 days, when I talk about people in my age group, which is obviously a generation apart from yours. So I again talk about what are people planning to do in their second innings. Are they only focused about retiring at the age of 55 or 54? Or are they thinking beyond that? And you can only be living a happy life if you're doing what you're enjoying. So I'm not saying, I mean, it's too early for all of you.
Yeah, no, but sir, it makes sense for us to think about that at least. Yash, you want to talk about the platform plus how to monetize, how to talk about these things.
Correct. So we had an interesting question here on Zoom from Mr. Dheeraj. He asked you that, you mentioned very recently about one of your friend who is struggling to publish his or her book and has everything sorted down, but you managed to publish your book in a short span of time, just thinking about that, I would want to write a book in February, to probably releasing it and then making it to one of the best sellers in India. So, what is the process all about? Like, how do you finally got a hold of, okay, let's say I want to choose this platform, for example, in your particular case, Amazon, and after writing the book, what is the post process all about? If you can share your thoughts on that.
So, as I said, my friend is not struggling. He's going with a very reputed publisher.
Correct.
So, not struggling, but because the publisher has given him a date of February 21, because he can't release the book before that. So, obviously, he struck a good deal. But I'm saying that because he's going with a traditional publisher, he has to go by what the publisher says. He cannot have a say on when he's going to release the book. So, for me, as I mentioned, honestly, Yash, I was a first-time author. and I didn't want to spend too much of time in going after the traditional publishers. So Kindle was a good option. It gives you the freedom, it gives you that reach as well. So the book did pretty well in the first few days, even in US and in Australia. And the book has been, so I found readers in about 10 different geographies across the world. So it's only happened because obviously that Kindle gives you a huge reach and that digital platform. So right from, let's say, deciding, so I was very clear in March or April when I started writing that it has to be released on Amazon Kindle, no two ways.
Okay.
And then obviously I was in touch with a few of my friends as well who had gone through this route. And you ought to go through the entire steps, which, so it's not just writing. Now again, yes, English is not my native language, which may be true for most of us on this on the tour as well. So I had to take the help of professional editors, right? And then I actually took a help from 2 or 3 book lovers also, people who are really into reading books. So I took some valuable inputs from them as well. And then to be able to decide the structure of the book. So one is about writing and conveying, one is about the structure. So I adopted that 3x3 kind of a structure.
I wanted to talk about the structure as well, because you've decided.
You even talk about in your book. Yes.
In book as well, yeah, because you've divided the book into 3 pillars of entrepreneurship, and then you've got 3 subheadings under that. Plus, you've also given summaries of each those 3 pillars. So how did you decide that this was the structure, and how did you define this? How can I bring more clarity to whoever is reading this book? Because we really like the structure of the book, and plus the summary part is great as well, according to both of us.
See, I believe the summary is more to do with all the marketing books that we read. So as what happens with most of us, when we're writing an exam, we're all looking at some summaries, or wherever we're short of time, we actually want the crux of the matter in as few words as possible. So I read a couple of books over the last 1 or 2 years, and I found some of these good books had summaries, which if you tend to miss out anything in the chapter that you read, even if you were attentive, you would tend to miss out on certain things.
Correct.
That summary would help you to refresh most of these points. So I always thought that gave us a good retention. So the summary part. And I thought, again, now people are more accustomed to reading those LinkedIn articles or those short snippets. You have a lot of these Blinkist and a lot of these apps which provide those book summaries. So I said, why rely on a third party to publish my book summary, and why not have my own book summary towards the end? So if somebody really is interested in reading the book but is unable to devote even that 120 minutes of his life, my book will not take more than 120 minutes. So he can spend about 10 to 11 minutes and go through the entire gist of what the book is in terms of the pillars, in terms of the subheadings. And I would say, the structure, it really came along through a book called Talk Like TED. It is a very famous book by Caravan. Some of you definitely would have heard of this. A best-selling author worldwide, Caravan, and his book Talk Like TED. So I had read the book a few years back, and I again happened to pick up the book 3-4 months back. And when I had prepared my book, initially it had 8 chapters and not 9. Now, again, I realized it was getting difficult for those chapters to be grouped into different headings. So, Caravan book, which is Talk Like TED, has this 3x3 matrix. And that's how I adjusted the framework. And from 8, I actually went to 9 chapters into some new things and was able to group everything into different headings. Again, I believe, so Caravan is an expert so he talks about how people make those meaningful presentations. And it's a pretty decent book, because if you talk about meaningful presentation, it has to be a meaningful book on those meaningful presentations. So all credit to that gentleman on so increasing the chapters from 8 to 9 and then being able to group that into 3 different subheadings. So that's what I did.
Understood.
Yash, we've got another question, and we wanted to touch on this topic as well. So Yash, please go ahead with the question.
Yes. Just one second.
Yeah.
Molly, do you want to take this?
Yeah. I'll take this. So, sir, Molly Kundlia wants to talk about the fact that while you're going through the traditional route for publishing, you would get the benefits of the marketing resources of that particular publisher.
Yes.
So, which you would not get if you're going through another channel.
Yes.
So, she's asking you, ki, how did you manage to market your work to the larger public?
So Maurice, you're absolutely right. So when you go through a traditional publisher, definitely they have their marketing prowess and you have an access to their marketing teams and their cloud. So when you're going solo, you then really need to rely a lot on your LinkedIn networks and definitely some kind of paid advertising, which has to kick in. Because if you really need to get into your third or your fourth connection, so LinkedIn can only help me get across to my first or the second connection. But if you actually have to venture out into that unknown territory, then some amount of paid advertising has to kick in. So yes, so certain extra budgets which need to be demarcated if you're going solo. So that is required.
So we've also got a couple of people who've asked this question before. This is Shashikant Prasad who's asked us this: ki, what things we should care about in writing, which makes our book more preferred in a particular genre. I think we've touched upon that as well. Ki, suppose I'm writing a motivational book. There are a good amount of books that are already available with big authors. What should we do apart from just writing good content? How do you differentiate yourself in that particular genre?
Now, I definitely have had this question multiple times come up through some of my friends also in the last 15 days. See, it's again about being yourself. You really can't be somebody like somebody else, or you can't be differentiating from somebody else. So you can't be so as a reader, it's definitely not possible for you to have read across 100 different authors in the same genre. Because only if you've read the 100 top best-selling authors in the genre can you start differentiating from them.
Yes.
Right? So it's not practically possible to be reading 100 authors. So ultimately, it will reflect on the way you want to talk about or express your ideas.
Correct.
So I believe ultimately it will be the way you express yourself. And if people like the way you express yourself, they will buy into your books. But if you start copying somebody else's expressions or ideas, first of all, you will end up in that risk of being, let's say, caught up in that plagiarism act. Right? Secondly, again, so when I started writing this book, I could have written it as a story in which it is in the form of a narrative, two people talking to each other. Right? So some of you, if you read the book, the monk who sold his Ferrari, right?
Yes. So,
yes.
You have a storyline wherein people are conversing with each other. Right? Or the same book could have been written in a neutral stanza as well. So now, if somebody can really write a story, that's definitely more engaging. Now, when I started off, I was given this feedback that if I wrote this in the form of a story, in a form of conversation, it would gel more with the audiences. Okay. But I tried that initially in the first 1 or 2 days. I realized I was not able to do that. Now, I didn't want to pull it along just because it is going to resonate more with the audiences. If I felt I was not good at doing that in my first attempt, I don't know, I might do that in the second attempt. But if I was not comfortable in doing that in the first attempt, I dropped that idea. Okay. So I wanted to let my expressions flow the way they were, not trying to please somebody else.
Understood.
So very simple answer, just express it the way you are. And some people in the world will definitely love the way you express.
Very true, sir. Yash, do you want to talk about how after you've published a book, how do you go about marketing, or how do you go about getting authentic reviews and feedback?
Correct. So predominantly, I've stalked you enough on LinkedIn and got to know that, there were N number of reviews from all across the world about your book. So, can you also talk a little bit about that angle, post monetizing, post publishing? How does you actually portray to leverage your network so that the marketing of that book can create a huge impact?
So I must admit one thing, because again, as I told you, I'm talking to an extended family. I must admit one thing. Every single review on Amazon is a genuine review. Right? See, many people try and shortchange that, because you could be writing a review even without reading the book. That's possible, no? But each of those reviews is a genuine review. Now, obviously, when I decided on the launch timelines, decided on the day it would be published, I started doing some homework 2 weeks prior to my launch.
Okay.
Wherein I started identifying some people who were really avid readers in my network.
Okay.
Right? Some people in my engineering batch, some people in my IIM batch, some people across the professional circles that I've worked with over the last 20 years. You tend to know people who are definitely fond of reading books. So in the 10 or 12 days before the launch, I started approaching these people, informing them of my launch date. So I had decided the launch date as, let's say, 24th of June. I had firmed up the date by about 12th of June. So once I was clear on the launch date, because again, this gives me the leeway. I had the freedom. If I'm publishing on Kindle, it is me who decides as to what launch date is, because the day I press the submit button is the day the book is launched for everybody else. So I didn't send across any copies to anybody, I would say. You're allowed to do that. You can do that with a few percentage of population. Even Amazon allows you to do that. So I could have sent across a few copies, a manuscript to a few people, but I only did that to 2 or 3 people. Again, that was more as a feedback also if I wanted to make some last minute changes, some small minor changes. But net, I engaged with a lot of such readers who may be interested in reading my book. I just gave them a brief plot, a summary in about 200 to 300 words. That's it.
Okay.
That this is a book that is going to be released on 24th. So I zeroed down on a few people who would definitely be buying the book in the first 1 or 2 days.
Okay.
And then obviously the launch timing. So I launched it on a Wednesday.
Okay.
Again, as what happens with, again, Yash, most of you people who work in a corporate, you are neck deep in work till about Friday morning. Friday afternoon is when the relaxation starts kicking in, right? So I planned the launch on a Wednesday so let's say 1 or 2 days, some people are able to purchase the book. And by Thursday evening, the first lot of people are able to start reading the book. So I had some reviews which were posted on, let's say, a Friday night or a Saturday or a Sunday. So that initial first week, you had to plan out certain activities with the people would be able to read the book and then post in a review. And then the entire marketing in terms of Facebook, in terms of LinkedIn, obviously you need to reach out to more people. As even the question that you had asked, I was not going through a regular publisher. So I started off with some posts. I wouldn't say any videos, but even Gargi, as you had mentioned in one of our earlier conversations, you happened to read a few of my posts.
Yes.
So I had started posting on LinkedIn. Small, not really, I would say, a promotional aspect of my book, but some aspects which relate to my book. Something on passion, something on talent, a small article, a small post. So I had started doing those activities from the first week of June itself.
Okay.
And informing at the end of every post about the launch of a book which is happening related to this topic. So you could read more about this topic in a book which is slated to be released, let's say, by the end of June.
Okay.
So I started building up on LinkedIn and Facebook right from the first week of June. So these are 2 activities in terms of marketing which I did.
Thank you, sir, for that insightful answer. And also, how did it finally feel to make it to India's bestseller? And did you even imagine that your book is going to probably be even bestseller in, let's say, Canada, Australia, so on and so forth? And second point being, what are your future plans now?
So again, I don't have any plans of writing another book as of now. So that's very clear. But yes, it's nice once you appreciate it by the readers, and especially as I told you, Yash. So obviously the first few friends were your friends, right? So you expected them to put in some decent reviews. Right? So I'm talking to my own people, so I can be very honest. So the first few friends obviously were your own friends, though you had asked them to read and put in their reviews. So they had to be good reviews. But then when the next crop of reviews started coming in, which was the next week onwards. So let's say post 28th or 29th, whichever reviews you see, would be from the people I had not asked for.
These were organic reviews.
These were the organic reviews which started coming. They may be knowing me. I'm not saying that they may all be strangers to me. But post 27th, 28th, they were the people who I had not asked for to read the book and post a review. That started happening on if they liked the book, they started posting some reviews. So that's how it kind of kicked up, and then it was obviously well received by the student fraternity, I would say. And even in my circle, I have always spoken to my colleagues, asking them to ensure that if they have a kid in class 11, 12, or somebody who's an undergraduate student, it's very important for that student to be reading this book, because permanent jobs are going to be a thing of the past. I'm not saying permanent jobs are going to vanish entirely, but one needs to be. So I am not just talking about being an entrepreneur in this book. I'm talking about the entrepreneurial mindset. Are you ready for any eventualities in life? And what do you need to do as a person to be ready for those things in life?
You've, sir, talked about a very interesting topic here. You've talked about being an intrapreneur, where you have that entrepreneurial mindset even when you're doing a corporate job. So would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, again, carrying on with my aspect of networking, Kadhi, most of you look back. Now, again, at the age of 25, you look back at your networks. So, Kadhi, okay, you happen to be in business, but let's say, Yash, if you happen to be in a job, your network is primarily confined to the organization that you work in.
Correct.
Think about how many people do you know across industries. Now, again, because you're a consultant, you just might be talking to many different people in different industries. But are they just limited to your professional contacts, or do you actually have some good acquaintances across different sectors? Are you trying to imbibe certain qualities of certain other people? What I realized is that as an employee, we hardly go beyond our comfort zones. We try to mingle around with people only who are people like us. So that's not like being an entrepreneur. You're really confining yourself to the industry that you're in. So when I speak about the aspects of networking, when I speak about the aspects of building relationships, you really need to start today, because you can't build those relationships when you need them.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a famous saying, build it before you need it. So the whole idea is to sensitize some of these employees. And then again, if you're talking about being an employee, there's nothing wrong in being an employee. I have been an employee for 20 years. So I'm not in any case trying to demean a job. But if you really need to work for another 20, 25 years in a job, you can only do that if that resonates with your passion. So the earlier that you identify your passion, the more comfortable you would be in your job. So are you in your job only because it's paying you decently? Or are you in your job because you're enjoying the environment? These are two different aspects. Now, in the first few years of your life, it really doesn't matter. Because I understand for many of you who may come from the same background as I was, for many of you, earning for the initial few years of your life may be very important. That's the reason I said, for the first few years of life, you may have some compulsions. But if you really need to survive in the long run, then your talent or your passion needs to resonate with the work you're doing. So that's what I'm trying to sensitize people who are there in corporate, that are you really taking care of these aspects? Are you really taking care of the networking and the relationship aspects? Are you really working on your mindset? Or are you only there to please your boss and your super boss? So are you developing the mindset of being a human being who's really accepted by a larger audiences? So that's what the aim is.
Yash, we have a follow-up question from Dheeraj, sir.
Yes. So we also have a mixed pool of, all the IIM Indore alums here, and many of them are even mature writers, and they are asking very specific questions. For example, how do you went about pricing the book? And also, does the platform, for example, in your particular case, let's say Amazon Kindle, does it provide any assistance in that, aspect as well?
So again, this was... So initial few days, I wanted the book to reach to a larger audience. Now, there are two aspects how people go about it on Kindle. There's a very large audience who make the book free for their first few days.
Okay.
Because if you want to reach a larger audience, then you also have the option of making the book free on Kindle. Now again, it's a digital platform, so you have all that flexibility which is available. Now it's a personal choice. I never wanted to make my book free of cost, but then if you're not making it free, then if you're talking about a market like US, then the minimum allowed price is 99 cents, which is about $1.
Okay.
So I wanted to price it at the minimum paid price to start off with, again to be able to reach a wider audience. And somebody who pays in 99 cents, so 99 cents is hardly anything if you talk about a US market. So that's how I wanted it to reach to a larger audience, and I priced the book in India at, let's say, about 75 rupees, which is equivalent to about 99 cents. So I had in mind that I will keep an introductory price of about 75 rupees in India for the first about 10-15 days. And then take it up to 149 again. So there's nothing right or wrong in this pricing strategy. As I told you, many people launch the book free of cost and then make it a paid subscription.
Correct.
People launch it the way I have done. People do it the other way as well. People may launch the book at 200 rupees and then reduce the price to, let's say, 100 rupees. So entirely up to you. But the best part is, because you're on Kindle, you have the flexibility. So if I decide tonight that I need to increase the price to 199,
there's no stopping you.
It just takes me 30 seconds.
Correct.
So that flexibility is up to you. Again, then you they're talking about the market dynamics as to what is the price that the market can bear, right? So if you read economics, so ultimately it's what is the price that your product can bear. So it's you do that. I mean, it's a hit and trial method.
Correct. Yep.
So Yash, I think we've got a couple of minutes for sir to wrap it up and have a conclusion for us.
Yes.
So,
just one last question from me personally, Vikas. Any tips or advices for all the budding writers who want to write and or probably even are writing right now, but probably are writing small pieces or snippets, so on and so forth? How did you, not being a traditional writer, being a corporate guy, foraying into your entrepreneur world, decided one day that you made that decision that probably I would going to write that book? Because when you actually write that book, it do sound like it's a lot of job. So probably from that angle, any tips or advices to all the budding janta from IIM Indore?
See, I had never even written a blog till about 4 months. I had never written any article till about 4 months back. So I believe these two aspects also came in handy, because many people in your generation are writing a lot of articles or so-called blogs regularly.
Even LinkedIn posts for
LinkedIn.
I really wouldn't count a LinkedIn post, because a LinkedIn post is hardly about 150-200 words. Or let's at max is about 250 words. So on an average about 200 words. That's not really a piece of writing. 200 words is not really a piece of writing. But if you're definitely writing a LinkedIn article, which is about, on average, about 700 words, that's the minimum writing which I would classify. Or even if you're writing a blog, which is again minimum of 500 words. So many of you are already writing blogs and articles. So I had never written a blog and an article till about 4 months back. So I believe that also helped me, because I was clear that I have to write a couple of 1,000 words and not a few hundred words. Now, so for all the people who are already writing some of these blogs or articles, believe me, it's much more easier for you than it was for me. I'm being very honest. I had never ever written a blog or an article. So see, again, just narrow down on the theme that you're very passionate about, that you strongly feel from within. That could be anything. That could be about cooking. That could be about playing poker. That could be about gaming. Anything which is very close to you. Don't look out for a topic which will sell in the market. believe me, everything sells. If you've done it with the right intention, everything sells in the market. So find out that theme which resonates with you internally.
Understood.
I think by building on Yash's point, I think this is talking about finding your voice or trying to write what is true and authentic to you.
Absolutely. And then just you will definitely have to devote a couple of hours every day and do this in about 60 days time. I am a firm believer that gone are the days when you ought to spend a year or two in writing a book. You can see you have all kinds of technologies which are available. So I use a dictaphone. I mean, you have all these voice softwares which are available. So speech to text kind of software. I never typed a manuscript. I used my voice and I used to use that software. I mean, that gives you the freedom. If you're standing in the balcony and you think about something, I mean, you're speaking and it's getting typed. You have so many softwares and devices, so many technological aids which are available to you today. You should not be thinking about writing a book in a year's time. So the day you decide, 60 days is the upper limit.
Okay.
And once you start doing that, once you start devoting a couple of hours, using the right technology with you, and believe me, it's pretty easy.
Basically, just start doing it.
Start doing it a few hours every day and use technology to your advantage.
Yes, sir.
But thank you so much, Vikas. This has been an absolutely great session from you. Thank you so much again for taking out time, inspiring all our budding writers and even people who are not into writing so much. Had actually loved hearing all about your entrepreneurial journey. And wishing you all the best. May your book even rise higher. And looking forward for your next book as soon as possible.
Thank you. I just have one more announcement to make. So I am going to be doing a session with 3 HR heads, and that too from very large organizations, on 28th of July, which is a Tuesday evening. And this message is for people who are currently in their final year or who are just stepping into IIM Indore as of now. Will be very beneficial to these two batches. Right? I again repeat, people who are stepping into the college or people who are into the final year now. So some interest. So again, the topic is going to be entrepreneurship that day, and I'm going to be talking to 3 HR heads of very large organizations. So I will be obviously sending out the details on my LinkedIn post in the coming week. So this session is for 28th of July, and it could be useful to some of the younger lads.
Thank you, sir. And before we say goodbye to you, I just wanted to announce that we've already got a list of all the 5 winners that we have, and we'll be sending across the books with a personalized message from Vikas sir to all these 5 people.
Perfect.
So that's it, sir. Thank you so much for having this insightful discussion with us.
Thank you.
And looking forward to
again, sir.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
The whole Delhi team. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for attending. And please don't hesitate to contact us or Vikas sir for any doubts, questions you might have. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Have a great weekend.